Appearance on Dion's Daily Dose does not imply endorsement from or by any candidate or guest. The views, thoughts, and opinions expressed by Dion Bergeron or Dion's Daily Dose are his own and do not represent the views, thoughts, and opinions of any guest. Material and information presented is for general information purposes only. The Dion's Daily Dose name in all forms and abbreviations are the property of its owners, and its use does not imply endorsement of or opposition to any specific organization, product, or service. If you'd like to support the show, please visit our Patreon at patreon.com/Dion's Daily Dose.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Dion's Daily Dose. Glad you could join me. We have a lot to cover today. It's been a crazy news day. Some of this stuff is older, I'll admit, but a lot of it is very, very recent. So the first thing that I want to touch on is, I will bring it up right here. There it is. California's Gavin Newsom, of course, announces $125 million fund to give coronavirus stimulus checks to immigrants in the state illegally. That is right, ladies and gentlemen. California Governor Gavin Newsom announced on Wednesday plans to give cash payments to adult immigrants living illegally in the state to help them weather the coronavirus crisis. The plan, which would use a mix of taxpayer money and charitable donations from corporations and philanthropists, will give 150,000 adults $500 each during the coronavirus outbreak, the governor said. California has had an estimated 2 million immigrants living in the country illegally. They have not been eligible for the $2.2 trillion stimulus package approved by Congress last month, which pledged cash payments to most Americans while boosting unemployment benefits by $600 per week. Quote, "We feel a deep sense of gratitude for people that are in fear of deportations that are still addressing essential needs of tens of millions of Californians," said Newsom, a Democrat, who noted 10% of the state's workforce consisted of immigrants living in the country illegally, who paid over $2.5 billion in state and local taxes last year. Taxpayers would be kicking in $75 million for the money, while a group of charities has committed to raise another $50 million for a total of $125 million. A group of charities already has donated $5.5 million for the fund, including the Emerson Collective, Blue Shield of California Foundation, the California Endowment, the James Irvine Foundation, the Chan Zuckerberg Initiative, and an anonymous donor. Newsom said the money will not be distributed based on income. Quote, "Their personal information will not be required to get those support," he added. It's basically more of the same. I will, of course, leave the link for you. Hi, Sean. Thanks for joining me. It is, once again, people on the left care more about illegal immigrants than they do American citizens. Unfortunately, because we have Democrats in Congress who, I might add, Nancy Pelosi actually thanked and applauded Democrats for holding up the latest boost that they wanted for the Paycheck Protection Program, which is basically the small business loans and grants that are going out in order to keep people on the payroll and keep them off of unemployment. The Democrats blocked that. And Nancy Pelosi was happy that they blocked it. She actually thanked them. Yes, indeed. I wish I was making this up. The next thing is, this is a little older story, but very important. Chinese researchers stripped of security clearance at Canada lab for deadly human diseases. So researchers from China were stripped of their access to Canada's National Microbiology Lab, which works on some of the world's most deadly human and animal pathogens. Canada's National Police Force said it is investigating, quote, possible policy breaches by Zhang Kui. I'm not sure how you say it. A scientist from China, her husband, Kading Qing, a biologist at the same lab, and a group of her students who were escorted from the facility earlier this month. I will again give you the link for that. You can read it at your leisure. I find it very interesting. The date is from July 16th, 2019. So it is definitely something that I find curious. It's something that people might want to look into. So this here is from the National Review. And it is, that's odd. Apparently the YouTube link is weird, but whatever. So this is from the National Review. Okay, it is from June 14th, 2017, and the headline reads, "Stop funding WHO until it cleans up its act." Now, I don't know if you've seen lately the outrage from all the media, the left. How dare you talk about defunding the WHO, right? How dare you talk about that? I'm like, they were calling for it. The National Review was calling for it back in 2017. They show us, right, that the WHO is basically in for China, right? The WHO, the troubled United Nations Health Agency, has just elected a controversial new director general. This is back when they elected this guy. The choice should disturb taxpayers, members of Congress, and the Trump administration. We'll soon hear condemnation of the administration's plan for steep cuts in funding of international organizations, right? People were, crying about it way back then. But I'll drop the link, like always, so you can check it out at your leisure. But I just want to point out that the National Review was telling us, this is bad. These are bad people, all the way back in 2017. So the fake outrage now, because people realize that, is really, really stunning. I want to show you this. I was on YouTube last night, and Google is actually asking for money so that you can donate to help stop COVID-19, right? You can help stop the spread. COVID-19 affects everyone. Give today. And Google.org will triple your donation. And they purport that it's going to go to doctors, nurses, and researchers, right? But let's raise $7.5 million together by supporting the UN Foundation, right? The COVID-19 Solidarity Response Fund for the World Health Organization. That's where the money's going. It's going to the WHO. The WHO, that's who's getting the money. In my opinion, Google has plenty of money. If they want to donate to the WHO, that's their prerogative. But don't ask hardworking Americans to do it. Don't ask me for my money, because I'm not giving it to them. Michael Strauss said WHO is for anything that promotes the NWO. Absolutely. Unfortunately, they are owned. They are all owned. It's the very fact that they ask for money is ridiculous. Here is a tweet from the director of the WHO. WHO and China have enjoyed a long and productive partnership. WHO is proud to have supported the overseas training of more than 2,000 Chinese health workers. Grateful for China's commitment to strengthening health systems in other countries through its Belt and Road Initiative. That was from January 16th, 2019. Now, if you notice that big statue right there at the end of the table, or just behind the table over there, that is the god, goddess, whatever, Shiva, which is where's it at? The master of both poison and medicine through his ambivalent power over snakes. That is interesting to me. You can read all kinds of stuff into it. It's very, very telling. This guy has perpetuated China's policies for a very long time. Thank you for joining us, Paul. Appreciate it. There is just so much going on here that we aren't being told by a host of different people, by a variety of organizations. And there's one more little news piece that I think is interesting. With our being distracted, right? China may have conducted low-level nuclear test blasts, U.S. says. They think that China may have set off low-level underground nuclear test explosions despite claiming to observe an international pact banning such blasts, the U.S. State Department said in a report on Wednesday, that could fuel U.S.-Chinese tensions. Is anyone really shocked? I mean, really, is anyone really surprised about this? China has shown over and over that they can't be trusted. They've shown that they're going to do what they want. They are not. They're not on the same page. And I don't know if you saw, but the whole Biden thing, Bernie and all that aside, Biden actually made the statement that China's interests are our interests, that we align with China's interests. Now, I couldn't disagree with that more. The Chinese people are amazing people, industrious, hardworking. We've seen it. The administration is a totalitarian communist regime that does not align itself with our belief system. They are not our friends. I don't know how much more obvious we can make it. And for a presidential candidate to come out and say that our interests align with theirs, I think it's very disingenuous. I think it shows that he's so out of touch with reality that I've said it before, I worry about the guy on a cognitive level. I worry about the guy because of all of the things that he's been filmed doing. Not just the stuff he said, because he's said some pretty outrageous stuff, but the stuff that he's done on camera obviously made little kids very uncomfortable. These aren't the kind of things that we need in a leader. It's really quite scary that these are the kinds of people that the left is putting up to run against Donald Trump. And many people have said it, and I think it's correct. Look at who his running mate is, right? Look at who his running mate is whenever he gets around to announcing it, and then he will be carefully and quietly removed, and the real person that they want for president is going to emerge. Anyone want to take bets on who that is? I have heard everything from Michelle Obama to Oprah, even Clinton. I don't know who it's going to be. I look forward to seeing it. Let's see. Oh, Michael has something to say. He says, I have nothing good to say about Sleepy Joe, but I will say it's BS what they did to him. They poisoned him and made him like this. He wasn't always like this. You know, I'm glad you mentioned that. That's right. He wasn't always like this. He's always been kind of a gaffe machine, right? He's always kind of put his foot in his mouth with some of the stuff that he said, but he never had this level of cognitive issues, like so blatant. Did they poison him? Maybe. Did they do something to him? It's quite possible. I don't know what happened to him, but if you look at just the clip from not even that long ago when he was in front of the Council of Foreign Relations and he was bragging about getting the prosecutor fired and holding the money. He was with it. He was all there. He knew exactly what he was saying. He knew exactly what was going on. It's only recently that these issues have started appearing just since right before he announced, so right around that area, he suddenly became odd, right? He suddenly got like it. Now, I have read the claims that it's something to do with stuttering and how to prevent stuttering, but I say it goes far beyond that. And at this point, wouldn't it be better just to stutter? I stumble over my words sometimes. I would much rather do that than be accused of dementia. Uh, that's a good point, Michael. I think it's completely possible. I think it is possible that this was done to him. I certainly wouldn't rule it out. Uh, we've seen all kinds of interesting things going on lately, right? We have people that are praising the World Health Organization despite their clear bias, their pro-China slant, and people that are supposed to represent this country, people that are supposed to say, "Hey, we we are here for the United States. We are, representatives of the United States," but yet they're praising foreign entities. They're praising organizations like the WHO, the WTO, that it's been pointed out and proven on multiple occasions that they do not have our best interests at heart, and I think that's pretty obvious. That's what we're looking at, unfortunately. Oh yeah, Sean brought up a good point too. Remember, Biden has had 2 brain aneurysms. Yeah, that's true, and that also might be a contributing factor. I know that the guy went from I've never really liked the guy. I always thought he was, a talker, not a doer. But he did go from, right here, but all of a sudden it's this, there's a meme out there because ice cream doesn't have bones, and it goes more in depth. It's funny, but it's true. Okay, so Steven says Biden is a joke. I'm sticking with President Trump. And what do I think of Trump? I think Trump is the only chance we have. I voted for Trump in 2016. I'm going to vote for Trump in 2020. There are some things that he says, and a couple of things that he does that I don't agree with. I'm not with him on his folding against the Second Amendment with bump stocks and suppressors. There are a couple of things that I think he could push back harder on, but overall, yeah, I'm going to vote Trump. There's no way in hell that I'm going to vote for anyone the left keeps trotting out, and there's no one else that is going to call out the media for what they do. That's probably one of the biggest reasons why I don't think that anyone else could possibly beat him, just because some of the things that he's said and tweeted, I'm like, ugh. The whole, I don't know if you guys have seen, but I guess there's a thing where he said that he wants his name on the check. So Steve Mnuchin is making sure that Trump's name gets on the stimulus checks, and it's kind of back and forth as to whether or not it's going to cause a delay. The New York Post ran a story that said checks could go out as early as next week, and that there will not be any delay. I hope there's not. I really hope that it doesn't cause any form of delay whatsoever, because if it does, then I'm wholeheartedly against that. These people really need, a lot of people really need that money. A lot of people are laid off. A lot of people have been, just, here's the thing. A lot of people get forgotten about, and that is the part-time workers who don't qualify for unemployment. And that's unfortunate. So the whole check and his name on the check thing, I was like, I saw that. I was like, oh my goodness. But I will take 100 of those instances over the anti-American policies of the left, over the anti-American, anti-citizen policies. Um, let's see here. Steven says, I wish Trump would do something about big tech censorship. Anybody right of Sanders is being censored. That is an excellent point, and it's actually something I've talked to several people about. When it comes to big tech, we have a situation where these platforms, because that's what they've become, right? That's what they're supposed to be, but they're actually publishers because they decide what they want to put out there, what they want to allow, what they want to ban, what they want to censor, if you want to use that word. Being an independent company, they can kind of do what they want. Let's be clear. However, there are very different laws and very different tax breaks and all this stuff about the difference between a publisher and a platform. And that's what the whole fight is about. We have issues with that because they want the benefits of both. I would love to see a perfectly a hands-off approach when it comes to the First Amendment. You can say what you want. We take no responsibility. That's the way it used to be, right? But absolutely, anything to the right of absolute crazy progressiveness is being censored. Paul says the only chance, because the system is corrupt as hell against any third party who would eliminate all that benefits them. You're absolutely right. The two-party system that we have it's corrupt. Unfortunately, it just is corrupt. I really, really hope, I pray that the drain the swamp is more than just rhetoric. We've seen some of it, but a lot of it, we're still waiting. We're still waiting. Now, I can make arguments for both sides, right? These things take time. You have to clear out the Justice Department. You have to make sure that these people aren't just going to get off when charges are brought. But I'd like to see more. I think a lot of us would. I'd like to see some of these people being prosecuted. These people that attempted a coup against a sitting president. Mike says, what I want to know is how are people complaining about not having work when retail stores are rehiring employees that were fired previously because they don't have enough employees? Not everyone can work retail. Not everyone can go. Even if they hired as many people as they possibly could, you'd still have lots and lots and lots of people out of work. I understand what you're saying. Paul says, I've been saying that too. It makes no sense. Again, even if every single one of these stores hired their maximum politician, or say, I was reading the next comment, even if they hired their maximum number of people, it still wouldn't be enough. We have many, many, many people that are out of work. But I understand what you're saying. If those people that need a job, there are tons of temporary jobs out there. There are tons of stocking jobs out there. Local companies like Walmart, Meijer, grocery stores are all hiring stocking positions. We have tester positions that are available for factories. Stephen says, do you agree with Ted Cruz about term limits for politicians? I put right on my website. I absolutely believe in term limits. Absolutely. We have to have term limits. That's the very fact that all of these people that are in Washington for 30, 40 years gain power and influence the longer that they're there. As to the exact term, I think we can have a discussion about that. I think more than 6 years, I think is too much. Especially for, House of Representatives, 10 years tops. 5 terms, any more than 5 terms as House of Representatives, that's 10 years. No more than that should be allowed. Why? Why do you need more than that? It's time to move on, right? If you discover that politics is your calling, here's the thing, I don't know. I believe that I'll make an excellent representative. I'm going to do everything that I can. But I don't know. I might get there and be like, oh my goodness, no, I'm good. But if I do get there and I do a good job, right? Some people say, well, it's up to the voters, right? It's up to the voters. But let's look at all. I mean, there are tons of resources out there. We've seen the corrupt voting system that's out there. And stay tuned on Friday, by the way. Come back Friday. Michael Strauss, who is the Libertarian candidate for the 1st District, is going to talk about his ideas for secure voting. Paul says, but coming up with fair terms to serve is difficult. Absolutely. Michael says politics is not a career, it's a service. Yeah. I mean, it's like anything else. I disagree wholeheartedly with these career politicians. It was never meant to be a career. Never, ever, ever. These people, they go to Washington or even our local governments, right? They get in there and they just stay there. They just stay there every term, building up more influence, every term, figuring out more ways to game the system. It's frustrating as a voter because we see the things that have been done to defraud the voters. We've seen the boxes of ballots getting delivered late. We see the boxes of ballots left in the postal warehouses. We see now Gavin Newsom, Northam, Blackface Northam. He actually is getting rid of voter ID for Virginia. We have a whole host of ways that they can game the system. They could once they're in, they're going to stay there unless we do something about it. And I think one of the best things that we could have done is institute term limits to politicians. Stephen says, am I pronouncing that right? Is it Stephen or Stevan? One or two? Do you like Visclosky, or do you think he failed Northwest Indiana for the past 35 years? He failed. It took Donald Trump to get in there and do things that were necessary for the steel mills and the workers. Got it, Steve. I'll say that. He hasn't, it's been said over and over. We have a guy who has been there since 1985. He has some of the highest seniority in Congress. What does he do? Really do? He doesn't say anything. He doesn't do anything. He kind of flies under the radar. You would think he was a short-termer. With as long as he's been there and the kind of clout that he should be able to bring to types of situations, he went out and he would march with the guys in the unions. But marching with the union and actually doing legislative policies to help the union are two completely different things. Again, we knew we had problems with steel being dumped into the market from China, from I think Korea. I know we had Indian steel being dumped, China for sure. Substandard steel at very low prices. We could have had tariffs many, many, many years ago, right? Many years ago. We could have instituted regulations against it. We could have done a number of things. And Visclosky didn't do any of it. He didn't do any of it, and he didn't even propose anything. It really makes you wonder where the loyalty would lie. Now, I will say, again, he marched with the unions. He would, talk to the unions. And I've heard that he, would intervene with federal agencies, which that is his job, to get people, their disability or stuff like that. But as far as actually moving legislation forward to help the district, I don't see it. And this whole train thing, which has been, look, the guy's leaving office. Okay. This is his last term. He's retiring. And his last big article that he put out to the NWI Times. Now, remember, this came out right at the beginning of this whole social distancing thing. I think it was in, I want to say February, middle to end of February. And what he chose to say was patting himself on the back about this track project. That was it. That was what he said to all the voters of District 1. That was the entire thing. Not let's come together, not let's, work together for the future or talk about all the industries or none of that. It was this stupid double track project. The track project that has had an, in my opinion, deleterious effect because we're looking at almost $1 billion that's being funneled right out of the region. It's going into Chicago, of course, just like everything else. And that's my biggest issue. Let's see here. Paul says, big difference to parade and actually act. I will agree with that. Mike says, let's all just be grateful that he sits there now and does nothing to help unions. Yeah, I mean, you can walk with the union all day long and hold a sign, but you're in Congress, man. Put forth some policies that actually help people. The short answer is no. It's given his length of time in Congress, given the platforms that are the same all the time, he claims to be for this. This is a guy who, has been against the president every step of the way. Is Trump perfect? No. Nobody on the planet is perfect. But he did massive strides to help our industries. He did all kinds of things. Let's see. Mike says, if NICTD, NICTA believes it's worth it, then get a loan. Don't drain taxpayer pockets. I agree. Why are we spending money for that? That's my question. Why should we throw money towards something that, have we even looked at the long-term alleged benefits of this thing? I don't see them. We all know why they want it. It's so they can run free, even though they're not supposed to. That's what it's for. That's why all this money is being diverted, so that they can send freight back and forth. Paul says Americans throughout the country are paying towards the stupid, worthless train. I agree. We're looking at something that we shouldn't be paying for. Not at all. That's what fares are for. That's what, and let's face it, these railroad companies are not hurting for money. They have more than enough money. We see it all the time. I just don't get it. I just don't understand how a little group gets set up to make complete autonomous decisions when it comes to this stuff. And of course, the voters are left out in the cold. They don't care about us. And that's been going on long enough. That's been going on way too long. We have these elite, out of touch, rich politicians who go into office and are suddenly worth tens of millions of dollars between book deals and stock that they sell right before the market crashes, and all of that stuff is just insane. It's insane. And one of the things we can do is term limits. Another thing is to actually get out there and vote. We have a chance. We have a chance this election. There are a number of people that are running that I don't think are part of the system. I don't know anyone in the system. I don't know any of the politicians from the area. I don't know any of the rich families, any of that stuff. I think there are a couple on the left too, but I'm going to tell you, as far as on the left, the big guy, right? The big two, McDermott and Mervin, both of them are toe-the-line Democrats. If you vote for them, you're voting for the anti-American policies. Because that's what the Democrats are doing. It's not the party of mom and dad or grandma and grandpa when they alleged, at least, pretended to be for American workers. Now they don't even pretend anymore. They hate this country. Why? I don't know, because it's made them all very, very, very wealthy. Paul says ridership is dropping mad. I bet it is. The committee for train improvements are all yeah, that's the other thing, is this committee that's supposed to be for the train and the improvements for the train. uh it's all political, just like everything else. And that's something that I'd personally like to see an investigation of. What does this thing do? uh Paul says politician, none are blue collar, right? None of these people on the left are blue collar. Very few at all throughout Washington are blue collar Americans that actually know what it's like to get up in the morning, go to work, worry about what it's like to feed your kids, choose between this and that. Hey, I gotta feed my kids, but rent's also due very soon. What am I gonna do? These are all real life problems, and I don't think the vast majority of these people have never had to worry about where their next meal was coming from. They've never had to think, okay, I have X amount to make it until the end of the week, till payday. If I buy some bologna and some bread, I can kind of stretch it. I don't think they've ever had to experience that. Look at now, kind of the same topic but a little different. Look at how these Hollywood stars are losing their minds now that they're not relevant, right? Some of the stuff, some of these videos that they're putting out are to me just hilarious. What's the I guess it's I don't know, some girl that used to be a call girl and now she's famous. She was like, I should be out eating sushi, not sitting in my house eating cereal. Oh my God forbid you should have to eat a bowl of cereal. I know that's like the end of the world, right? I love cereal, man. Cereal's awesome. But that aside, we have a society and a country that's run by people who don't know anything about the people that actually make up the country. They don't know what it's like to be us. They can't relate to us even when they try. Look at Elizabeth Warren, right? Pocahontas. Look at her when she was talking to that father that went up to her and said, okay, so you want free college for everyone. Now, I worked and I paid my daughter's tuition, right? Am I going to get my money back? And she laughed at him. And I know she dropped out, and now we can talk about all that being a setup, but she laughed at him. She's like, no. She has no idea about the real world. Michael says, I'll be the first to say I like the train and have good memories on the train, but it's a business. And if they want to make capital improvements, do like I have to do. Get a capital improvement loan. Exactly. It goes right back to subsidizing businesses to be in business. Yeah, he says, sorry, I meant the train committee is wholly made up of politicians. That's what I meant. Yeah, politicians that none of them are on the train committee are blue collar. I don't think any of them have ever ridden the train, for anything other than a photo op. So actually commuting, my wife used to commute back and forth to Chicago. She worked for a work comp adjustment company there. And she rode every morning and every night, right, to Chicago and back. And I was concerned for her when she went back and forth to Chicago. They only recently, they didn't even have Wi-Fi for the longest time. These are things that people want. And they finally put it in, but it just comes down to if Joe, who owns the little farm down the road, if he wants to make his farm bigger and invest, he has to go get a loan. Why should the train be any differently? Why should it be any different for them than it is for Joe? So I'm right there with you, Mike. It just makes no sense. So I'm going to tell you today, change topics a little bit. Unfortunately, gets a little sad, but one of the questions that I was asked when I went to the USW interview was, do I believe that CEOs of companies should be held responsible for the things those companies do? Specifically, Like my example that I kind of drew from it, they were talking about like chemical spills and stuff like that. But the example that I drew from it, I'm going to tell you a story about my uncle. This is my mother's brother. His name was Terry, and he was like the coolest guy in the world when I was a kid. He had a Corvette, a metallic blue Corvette, 1970, I want to say 76 maybe, Corvette, somewhere right around there. And it was awesome, right? I'd ride in it. Yeah, awesome. Well, he worked offshore. He was a crane operator and then became a driller. He was basically, you have a hierarchy on an oil rig. He was close to the top. He wasn't the top, but he was close to the top. And there was a bad storm one day, and he was down by the dock, right, where the barges were tied up. And his boss told him, hey, go down there and tie those barges up. And he said, no, that's not my job. And it's not. That's the rough hands job. The guy was like, do it or you don't have a job, right? I will fire you if you do not go down there and tie those barges up. Well, he went down and he tied the barges up. And in the process of tying them up, the waves caused the barges to buck, and he got thrown off the barge in between the two, and they came together and it crushed him from the waist down. This was absolutely horrible. He went to the hospital and he ended up passing away. Now, under the system, right, under our current system, the guy was, I don't even know if he was reprimanded, the one who sent him. There's lawsuits and money, but money doesn't change things. And until you start holding these people accountable for the decisions that they make, I just don't know if the behavior will change. Because if you really look at the history in the oil rigs and the people that have been hurt, the people that have been killed, nothing has changed really. Safety measures and stuff like that are forced and increased, but unfortunately, the people still make the same decisions. They still tell people, oh, you're going to do this or you're going to lose your job. I personally would have liked the guy to have been brought up on at least some kind of internal investigation, something. But that's not going to happen. I am in favor of if you do something that directly leads to, especially the death of someone. And this was a guy who worked hard his whole life. Was a fun-loving guy. He was my idol when I was a kid. My dad wasn't around. I'll get into more about that another time, but I touched on it a little in a previous video. But this guy was awesome, right? He had long hair, he was kind of a rocker, and he was a hard worker. He flew up through the ranks, so obviously he wasn't a cut up or a jokester. He was a hard worker, and he was just like that, because one guy was more worried about company property than he was the life of a person. And I think we've gotten away from that, right? Many years ago, not even that many years, I could understand like CEOs, they were hired to make the company profit, right? That's the whole point. And companies, are they responsible for the damage that they do to the environment if there's no law against it, and all this other ridiculous stuff? We all have to be responsible. We all have to do things that we take other people and things into account. Steve says, I'm trying to get into an apprenticeship in Local 150. What would you do for union jobs here in Northwest Indiana? That's a good question, Steve. For one, I would make sure that our industries that are American industries are number one. I look, we have candidates that are all for free trade, right? And I'm for trade. I want to make sure you understand that I am for trade. However, I agree with Donald Trump that American businesses, American citizens have to come first. We're Americans. We have to put our American industries and businesses first, which means that we need tariffs are a good stopgap, right? They're a good temporary measure. But we need more long term protections for our workers, for our American industries. We need to bring those industries home. I believe in unions. My wife's entire family just about are union workers. Her dad retired from the mill. Her grandparents worked at the mills. We need unions. I believe that they're critical. Many of the laws that we have today would not exist without unions. That said, I would like to see, because we know that there are unions out there that have corrupt leadership. We've got people being indicted. We've got people that are, being brought up on charges, investigated. That's one thing that I would like to see cleared out. I would like to see unions draw from a more local pool when it comes to running things. I'd like them to focus. Let's see. Steve says, my father was a welder at Local 150 for 40 years. Wow, I grew up in a union household. There you go. Yeah, unions are critical. And that's one of the things that I think is really important to look at too, in the way that people kind of look at things. One of the things that I will say is I am the only Republican candidate that is against right to work legislation in its current form. I don't, and the main reason, there are a couple of reasons. Number one is because a union should not have to represent someone who's unwilling to pay union dues. If you don't want to be a member of the union, that's fine. You shouldn't have to be a member of the union. However, when it comes time to want those union benefits like representation and stuff like that, no, you did not want to be a part of the union. You didn't want to pay your dues. You didn't want to be a member of them. So now when you need them, sorry about your luck, homie. That's one of the biggest issues that I have with right to work legislation as it's currently written. The other issue that I have is in locations like Indiana State Prison, for example. People can be fired for any reason whatsoever or no reason. And right to work legislation is what allows that. It allows people to be terminated with no unemployment. You don't have to have a reason. All of that, those are the reasons why. I'm not opposed to the concept, which is that you shouldn't have to have a union at a shop if the shop doesn't want it, if the people at the shop don't want it. But unfortunately, the way that it's written leads to a lot of abuse. It leads to people who are unions that are forced to defend people that didn't want any part of the union before. They were like, no, I'm good, and it's not fair. It's not fair to the union. It's not fair to the other employees that the union members that are paying their dues. Why should they pay if they're going to get the same benefits? Let's see here. Hold up. Michael Strauss says, hold up. True profit comes only after personal responsibility and care for your employees and community. Numbers lie. Sure, you had a good year, but you laid off 25% of your workforce to do it. That's not taking care of your community. Therefore, they will not take care of you. Okay. I'm not sure. Did I miss a comment somewhere? I'm not sure what, he says 20 plus years I've owned and ran a non-union electrical shop on this concept. Oh, okay. No, I get it now. I understand. Yeah, look, there's nothing, this is what I'm saying. There's nothing wrong with not going union if you don't want to go union. However, you shouldn't be forced to go union. That's, I agree with that aspect. However, when you have a system where people can take advantage of the union, because that's what it comes down to. They don't have to pay dues, they don't have to be a member of the union, but they still reap the union benefits. That's not right. And so that's the part that I would absolutely push to get at minimum rewritten, at best, repealed and replaced. We have a situation where people are being taken advantage of, unions are being taken advantage of, and no one wants to call them out. We have oh, okay. I understand now. Sorry. Michael says, I was replying to your CEOs are there to make a profit for the business. Yes. Look, here's the thing. That's still what they're there for. But I agree with what you said here. True profit comes only after personal responsibility and care for your employees and community. Sure, you had a good year, but if you laid off 25% of your workforce to have a good year, then that's not good. That's not a good year, right? I wish more people would. I wish more people would think of that when they look at the long-term effects of the company, and they only look at numbers. They only look at the bottom line, that dollar, right? The almighty dollar. Yeah. He says that 20 plus years he's owned and ran a non-union electrical shop on this concept. Awesome. It can be done. It can be done. There are, people out there that know what they're doing. Steve says, would you be willing to work with President Trump to put America and the Constitution first? I'm sick of these never Trumpers not willing to work with him. Yes. Yeah, I look forward to working with the guy. I'd be honored, man. I really would. And let me be clear, though. I'm not a Trump worshiper. I see his flaws. I understand he's human. However, I do, and the Constitution should be above all. Unfortunately, a lot of our representatives, a lot of people in our government seem to have forgotten that the Constitution is the law of the land. I will say that there are a couple of things that he's said and done that I disagree with, most notable when it comes to the Second Amendment. But I would absolutely work with him, and I will work with whomever I need to get things done. But I will not compromise for the district. I'm not going to do things that are not good for the district. That's why I say I'm not owned by the party. And I know that that's going to become an issue. Am I going to make it past the primary? Only you guys can make that happen. But I'm not owned by anyone. I represent the first district. I'm not going to vote for something that's going to be bad for the first district, but good for, California or Iowa. I have no intention of following orders, but I will absolutely work with him. Definitely. I want to keep the Constitution first. Mike says there's a right and wrong way to make a profit. Are you in the short game or the long game? That's how you have to think when you're in business. I agree. Congress and Senate aren't there to follow POTUS orders. That's right. That's important. But they're not there to follow his orders. That's correct. But they're also not there to obstruct him every time we turn around. They're not there to do everything in their power to remove him from power, to push back against everything he tries to do, even the things that he's trying to do for us, for the American people. When it comes to, like, the tariffs, for example, no, tariffs are bad. But Visklosky was quick. He was one of the ones who were like, no, that's going to be bad. That's going to be real bad, right? But he was one of the first ones to try to take credit for keeping the mills open, for keeping people in their jobs, for all this stuff, when the entire time he's, voting for impeachment, he's following the party line. Look, if you want another Pete Visklosky who's going to do what the party says and is ineffectual, then McDermott or Mervin, because they're showing you right now that they're going to do what the party wants. Uh, Steve asked me, how come I'm running as a Republican and not as a libertarian? Because I am a Republican. I believe in less government. I believe that abortion is murder. I believe in the tenets of the Republican Party. I'm just not beholden to party. I believe I've always been a Republican. It just I will say that I don't know as much about the Libertarian Party as I probably should, and that's something that Friday, hopefully, Mike will be able to answer some questions since he's the Libertarian candidate. But I'm a Republican. That's just what it comes down to. I just don't believe that anyone should be beholden to their party above their district. That's kind of what happened here in this country. Mike says, you don't have to be owned by anyone. However, leaning away from the Constitution to simply get along is a sign that the person has no principle and is willing to waver in the wind. Exactly. I am a Republican. I just refuse to do things that the party wants just because the party wants it. I'm going to do things that are best for the district. That's what it comes down to. And we need more people that are willing to do that. You have people on both sides of the aisle that claim to put the Constitution first, that claim to put their constituents first, but we don't see it. Strength of conviction, right? I'm going to show you guys. I don't have it right now, but I have a big Second Amendment flag in the back window of my truck. It's been there for almost 2 years now, well before I ever even thought about running. And it's not coming out. I've had a couple of people, you really should take that down. So why? That's what I believe, right? It's the American flag with the Second Amendment printed on it, and it's what I believe. I'm not going to censor myself. I'm not going to take things down. And now, there are times when I have to think for a moment because I worked at a maximum security prison and I was a trucker. Sometimes I got a little foul mouth. So I have to think before I speak in that regard. But that's just language. I'm not going to censor my thoughts. I'm not going to censor my beliefs. I'm going to tell you what I believe. I'm going to tell you what I stand for. I'm going to tell you that I'm okay with the personal attacks, and it's going to happen, especially as I gain traction, especially if I win the primary, right? If I win the primary, you will see all manner of foul attacks because it's the MO. We know this. I'm prepared for it. My wife and my family support me 100%. But let's see here. Big wall of text. Hold on. First of all, Paul said, yeah, and all those same use the 100% wrong term democracy like the MSM. Yes, that's really important. All these congressmen and senators, they get up there and they're like, it's a threat to our democracy. Our democracy. We are a constitutional republic, and I believe that's. Let's see. Hold on. Well, first of all, Steve says, maybe you would know this. Was our district ever red, or has it always been blue because we're next to Chicago? I feel like our district gets a bad rep from the rest of Indiana because we're by Chicago. Good question, Steve. And actually, the last representative that was a Republican for District 1 was back in 28. It's been over 90 years since a Republican represented this district. The interesting thing, and that's why it's considered a throwaway district. That's why I've been told you're not going to win. I don't know why you're bothering to waste all your money doing this. You're not going to win. It's going to go to I wholeheartedly disagree. People are tired. They're tired of the garbage. They're tired of the stuff. We can absolutely turn this district red again. Absolutely. We just have to make sure that people. Mike says, wasn't it 19? It might have been 19. I want to say 28. I I want to say 28. Hold on. I'm actually going to look it up and then I'll share it with you guys. But in the meantime, Mike says, so when you say it's okay, Trump, you can violate the Second Amendment, I won't push back. That's wavering. That's not accountability. I agree. That's what I'm saying. Here's the thing though. There's a difference between pushing back and voting for somebody else. Let's look at what our options are, right? Who are our options for president? I support the guy, but I don't support him wavering on the Second Amendment. I don't support that at all. I wholeheartedly disagree with that. I've said it. I'm like, what the heck, dude? So, yeah, I just want to make sure I'm clear on that. Just in case you think that that's wavering. Let me look up here and see. Give me just a moment. I'm actually going to bring this up so you don't see the weird searchy. There we go. Let's look. Let's see what Google says. Let's see, District 1, last Republican, right? Well, we should probably put Indiana because Indiana, District 1, Republican congressman. Let's see here. Yeah, it says you got to go like way, way, way back. Let's see here. Let's see. Hold on. Let's try this. When I forget the guy's name, I had known it. When was the last Republican congressman from Indiana, District 1? And it just says since in over 90 years. Where is it at? Heavily Democratic. There it is. Has not elected a Republican to Congress in 90 years. 1928 United States House of Representatives election. Yeah, 1928. Okay, so Michael says, by voting for a guy that does not support the Constitution as a whole, how can you say you support the Constitution yourself without waiver? Oh, yeah, Steve, real quick. I am against anything that doesn't allow due process. Wholeheartedly against it. If there was a way, look, we know that there are people that are going to go out there and are going to do crazy stuff. If there was a way, then that's what our current system's set up for. You accuse someone of a crime, accuse someone of planning a crime. That's what the system's set up for. But unfortunately, you have those people that, Karen says you're bad, so you're bad. Unfortunately, that's the way it is. So back to Mike's question. So what would you have me do, Mike? I'm just curious. What would you have me do? Would you have me vote for Biden? Because that guy wants to put Beto O'Rourke in charge of guns, and then we're going to lose a heck of a lot more than bump stocks. That's just the reality of it. If I thought that there was someone who, truly represented the Constitution and could, stand a chance, then I might consider voting for him. But unfortunately, Donald J. Trump is the best we've got for the Second Amendment and, the Constitution as a whole. So unfortunately, that's just reality. We have what we'd like to see, which is, him support the Constitution in its entirety, including the Second Amendment, not even talk about banning any parts and, taking suppressors out of the mix and allowing them to be bought, not banning bump stocks. Look, Steve says, I'm not a fan of the bump stock ban. I'm not a fan of bump stocks, but it doesn't matter. I think they make your weapon incredibly inaccurate. There are issues with them, but it just is, it is what it is. And Paul pointed out, he hasn't just not brought it up lately. Yeah. Trump he gives too much, in my opinion, especially given how the people who hate him are constantly on the attack anyway. It doesn't matter what he does. It doesn't matter what he gives, what he, holds on to. People are going to attack him anyway. So why not just, stick to your guns, So I got to go eat dinner. I'm already late, but I appreciate you joining me tomorrow. Remember, 7 p.m., I'm going to have Christopher Wells on, Hobart City Councilman, and his wife, Sarah. They are both teachers and have an amazing list of accomplishments that I will introduce all of you to. Friday, Mike Strauss will be on. He is, again, the Libertarian candidate for District 1, and I heard back from John Westerkamp. We're discussing Monday, having him on Monday. So a whole bunch of, what? No, it's not. What? My wife's trying to mess me up over here. Okay. Telling me false names. That's like I tweeted out earlier when I was setting this up yesterday. Day before, about tomorrow's event with Christopher Wells and his wife. And I accidentally called Senator Young. I called him Scott instead of Todd. I don't know how I did that, but it was easier just to correct it under the tweet. I make mistakes. It happens. So see you all tomorrow. I appreciate you joining me. And as always, God bless you and God bless the United States of America.
If you'd like to support the show, please visit our Patreon at patreon.com/Dion's Daily Dose. This has been Dion's Daily Dose, hosted by Dion Bergeron. Executive producers, Sean Holgram and Michael Beebe. Copyright 2020. Dion's Daily Dose, all rights reserved.